collaboration and understanding so that we can have a long-term working relationship and we do not wait. What we used to think in the past, it was a problem that Western countries is supposed to solve. This is our problem, and our problem have to be solved by our own people, particularly people in this region. So let us approach this conference with an open mind, with determination, and discuss and come up with actionable solutions that will help build a sustainable and resilient future. And I forgot to mention that we have a sizable number of scholars from Djibouti as well, not only Ethiopia. I would like to conclude this by sincerely appreciating the organizers of this conference, in which Shirka Cultural Center has played a key role with us, the scientific committee, which were from different universities, and lastly but not the least, the university's organizing committee, and all of you. Thank you. The man had been Richenia in Shirkan, and I expect and wish for all of you to have a productive and fruitful conference. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ahmed Hassan Haji. According to our schedule, now we move to inviting our president, Dr. Molla Hagos, to give us some opening remarks. Thank you.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, honorable presenters, moderators, and rapporteurs, distinguished staff members of Baadhista campus, dear participants, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, on behalf of myself and the university community in general, I would like to express my sincere appreciation and thanks to the Baadhista staff and management and organizing committee for organizing this colorful conference, international conference. And I, together with my delegate here, feel honored and pleased to be invited and to be with you today. Dear participants, our university has so far organized 14 annual national and international conferences, 7 national students research symposium, several biannual academic discussion fora, as well as lots of monthly seminars. We do all this because research is one of the pillar elements clearly enshrined in our university's vision and missions, because research is one key area bestowed as an assignment to higher education institutions by the educational proclamation of our country, and because research is given prominence by our regulatory bodies, above all, because our education institutions must be centers of innovation, change, and pursuit of wisdom. Excellencies, dear participants, Admas University has been allocating hundreds of thousands every year to encourage our staff and students to take part in research, to organize different research forums, to publish research articles, and to disseminate them to the concerned stakeholders, and will continue doing these unreservedly. We have chosen this year's international conference to be conducted here at Hargeisa because we believe in the potential and capabilities of our staff and management here at Hargeisa. And they didn't let us down, and they have made it real. I would like to use this opportunity to thank you all for your devotion and success, for your time, energy, and the budget that you have spent for this international conference. Finally, I extend my appreciation in advance to the presenters, moderators, rapporteurs, and our guests. And I wish that the conference will trigger an active and interactive participation. Again, all of you, our management here, our staff, and the organizing committee, congratulations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mullah Zakai, the President of Admas University. Before I invite the next keynote speaker, I would like to recognize the presence of delegates from University of Hargeisa also, and His Excellency Mr. Muhammad Abdullahi Douali, Director General of the Ministry of Environment and Cultural Change, is also among us. Thank you very much. The next keynote speaker will be our beloved Dr. Jama Muse Jama, the Director of Hargeisa Cultural Center. Please.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Waynu badanahay scientific committee markay isu timaado, academic markay isu timaado, adduunyada marka la iskaga yimaadana la isla garanaya baa lagu wada hadlaa. Marka aniga iyo wasiirku waa isqaybinay si aynu ummaddeena halkan joogto ula hadalno, in af Soomaali lagu hadlo, qaybina Ingiriisku aan usho. Markaan qaybta Ingiriiska ku hadli doonto waa nahay. So, Her Excellency the Minister for Environment and Climate Change of the Republic of Somaliland, Shukri Ismail Haji Bandare, the Director General of the same ministry, Muhammad Abdullahi Douali, other colleagues from the government, and members of the parliament. I see that we have also elected members in different houses in Somaliland today staying with us, business communities and other invited guests. Dr. Mullah Zakai, the president of the Admas University, dear academic community of Somaliland, and delegates from other African countries, mainly from the Horn of Africa. We have also some contributions coming all the way from European universities which will appear in our proceedings for this conference. So I'm saluting them also connected to us. Good morning to everyone. I honestly commend the Admas University for organizing for the first time here in Somaliland, but as has been said, other 14 such a high-level academic international conference. The kind of conversation that we need in our African continent and the wider so-called global South communities. I commend you gave us an opportunity to talk about issues in a multidisciplinary international conference style, yet you choose to focus a timely and globally pressing issue, which is the climate change and its multifaceted effects. Let me start saying in this keynote a few words about the theme, specifically on the climate change and the Horn of Africa. The Horn of Africa is yet again faced with a catastrophic drought worse than the one in 2011. And an estimated 1.7 million people are facing famine. Somalis, who make their home in Somaliland, in Somalia, in Ethiopia, in Kenya, in Djibouti, are mostly agro-pastoral, are among the most affected populations by the anticipated catastrophes. This year here in Somaliland, we were lucky to have everywhere raining in Somaliland. But the missing of 6 consecutive rainy seasons with no hope for better one in some places of the region, even this year, adds to the seriousness of these challenges. The intel, of course, is due to the climate change that has disrupted the normal seasonal rain distribution across the region, and the consequences of such a disaster have multiple folds of challenges it brings. And it's not only for, as we would see, the lack of rains. Starting with the food insecurity for both agricultural and the pastoral communities is separate. With a regular rainfall, agricultural communities become irregular, will not be able to farm and support themselves, let alone to secure food for others. The same goes for the pastoralists that have and will have a shortage of pasture for their livestock to graze on. The chain of limited resources and availability of pasture, one way or other, is linked to the climate change. So the climate change is real. The climate has changed, and with everything it has changed. The entire traditional resilience mechanism and indigenous knowledge-based means of resisting the unexpected impacts of the nature have been completely made powerless. So we are alone in this situation. The environmental impact of climate change in the Horn of Africa is no longer a theory for future prevented impact, but a reality today to live with it. So we are dealing, if the Western countries understand the climate change, something that's coming for the future, here we have experience and we have the practical and living with the climate change effects. So similar to the effects of war, as the Somali British poet Warsan Shirka puts it, she says, you only leave home when home won't let you stay. So the drought refugee, for instance, is a reality that we have to deal with. So if we have refugees coming because of the war and conflict, today we have refugees and drought refugees that are expanding in their movement. So the community in the Horn of Africa, hence, have no better option than to leave their homes and to migrate to wherever is supposed to be better. The closer, that's what we are practicing and happening here in Hargeisa and other cities of Somaliland, is the urban centers. So they are moving forces from the pastoral area and coming to the urban areas, which are now overcrowded with the high rural to urban migration that's not planned, and our cities are not ready to receive that. So we have another planning issues that we have to do. And you academicians have to give us a solution what to have to do. So of course, as I was saying, it's not only the lack of water or lack of raining, but the problem of planning in our cities that we have to deal with. The worst of it is for those who are migrating across the Red Sea, across the ocean, with the majority of them being illegal migrants, as they cannot afford the regular travel routes that requires resources. But internally displaced people, internally displaced persons who establish new settlement within the region are also becoming a systematic challenge triggered by the droughts and exacerbated by conflicts and violence within the region. We have some concrete examples in our peaceful Somaliland and concrete examples that as the recent conflict start in the southern province of Somaliland, clashes within communities is caused because of people are moving from the areas where they used to live and they are coming close to the cities and the conflicts will come and they are unfortunately with them. Hence, the drought facing the Horn of Africa is due to climate change. It's not just rain shortage issue, but the ladder to multiple catastrophes with cascading effects of the regional and the global community. Some of the governments didn't even have, until recently, a ministry portfolio for the environment. Imagine. I commend the current government of Somaliland, the Republic of Somaliland, to have created a ministry dedicated to the climate change and understanding what was happening globally. This is, of course, aggravated by the fact that no one speaks, and this is very important, no one speaks out for the Somali people in general, at least from Somaliland and Somalia and probably some other places, within the major tables where the decisions of the globe collectively are taken. So this is important. If you see COP21, COP26, COP27, you will not see our voice being heard, while we are the most affected people by the climate change. So the Somali inhabited areas of the Horn are among the hardest hit areas globally, and no one is advocating for them in the climate remediation discussions. There is no recompensation for us, because no one is there to voice us and tell what's happening to the rest of the world. Where an offset from the world's large emitters of developing countries bearing the wars and the most disproportionate impacts of climate change is discussing. Our voice is not heard there. Therefore, we as academics need to speak out. As academic society and voice where the governments have no room to do for. So it's a multiple responsibility for which we are sitting here today. The second point I want to make, and I want to touch, is why we need these kind of conversations. And again, I commend the university, Admas University, to start these conversations. It's about the time our university goes beyond teaching classes and create an inducing environment for knowledge production. It's about the time such a knowledge produced by through international conferences like this one. It is about the time our policy makers and decision makers consider the knowledge produced by academics and base their decisions on evidence-based research output coming from the universities. So it's a collective responsibility, and that's why we need such an important conversation. It's globally discussed like any other group who is working for their own people. I'm happy to see that in Somaliland today, many centers of excellence are coming up within our higher institutions, including the research department of Admas, who started this one, including the Somaliland Center for African Studies, including the Institute for Peace Studies and the University of Hargeisa, and other, let me say, renewed, but all our Academy for Peace and Development, which is organizing in August, again, a conference similar to this one. So I'm happy to see that research centers are coming up and putting together their voice to discuss those major issues. But also some think tank institutions like ISIR and other institutions here in Hargeisa who is doing a research and trying to put together an evidence-based research output for our decision makers, for our government, for our parliament, and for our municipalities, people who are every day, every morning, taking a decision for us. It is about the time that the Somaliland government and other governments allocate funds for research and support these institutions to reproduce knowledge whose output has a substantial impact on our communities. But the money is not only what is missing. Marka xog la helo ayaa tala la helaa. When we get the right information, then we can propose, give the right suggestions. There is an elephant in the room here in this conference, and the question is, at least in the case of Somaliland, who owns our data? Because if we, as academics, if we don't get a reliable data, we could not produce such as anything. So in Somaliland, and that's the message to our government, who owns our data? To get information and give back the right suggestions, the research community and academia need accurate data. Somaliland government needs a new paradigm shift to govern its own data share with the academia, and make it available for researchers, rather than having them in a separate, probably, project management, international NGOs, or sometimes offices of the ministries that are dealing with those specific issues. We need to collect this data and share with the academia in a way that the academia community can give us back some. I know that the Minister of Planning is doing quite good, at least from the statistics side, but we need much more than that. We need data from the government, reliable data that we can and use for research that we are doing. In conclusion, this is a very, very important date for Somaliland and for the wider Horn of Africa research communities. So again, one more time, thank you, Admas, for calling us in this gathering. I hope we will make it yearly so we can continue doing this kind of conversations and have the resilience to sustain it, this kind of conversations. But most importantly, I hope that we will have a knowledge produced from this gathering, starting from the publication of the proceedings of the conference that we are here. I want to thank you one more time. I want to thank the Hargeisa campus leadership, Admas Hargeisa campus leadership, to host us and to put together these resources. I want to thank the scientific committee of this conference, the organizing committee that has done an amazing job for the last 3 months working with us to prepare this conference. And most importantly, I want to thank the contributors of the scientific community coming all the way outside of the country and locally. And as Ahmed said, we have a problem, we have African problems, and we need African solutions. Solutions done by our people, for our people, together. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much, Dr. Muse Chama Muse, the director of Hargeisa Cultural Center. By the way, I would like to take this opportunity to express my sincere appreciation and gratitude for the unimaginable assistance that we have been getting from your institution and yourself. Thank you very much. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like also to recognize the presence of delegates from Civil Service Institute. They have joined us. Thank you very much, Civil Service Institute of Somaliland. Ladies and gentlemen, when we move on to our next session, we find the keynote address to be given to us by Honorable Shukri Bandar, Ministry of Environment and Climate Change. Please.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم waxaan u maleynayaa hadii jeer waxa loogu tala galay bahalahan dadka dhaadheer marka raali bay dunahaan doontaan hadii alla yiraahdo run ahaantii salaan kadib waxaan runtii u mahad celinayaa Ilaahay halkan isugu keenay inagoo runtii nabada hadda labaad waxaan runtii siinayaa waxa weeyaan jaamacaddan aynu maanta u fadhino shirka ballaaran ay noo soo qaban qaabisay jaamacaddaas oo ah Admas University waxaan halkan dhammaantiin ka salaamaya si u dantihiin idinkoo ku fadhiya taytalo kala wada duwan oo ka kala yimi meelo kala duwan ayaan aad iyo aad qalbiga idinka soo wada salaamayna sababtoo ah maanta waxa halkan loo fadhiyo ama topiga loo fadhiyo maanta halkan isugu wadeen waa topic ina wada khuseeya ina wada taabanaya geeska oo dhan geeska Afrika iyo regionkaba wada khuseeya iyo caalamkaba marka aynu si toos uga hadalno iyo caalamkaba marka aan mahada ka gudbo waxa aynu runtii wada ogsoonahay oo aynu ka wada daragsanahay horta jaamacadda waan ugu runtii maaragtay waxyaabaha uu taabtay ee indhab u taabtay sida maaragtay aad iyo aad maanta intii soo bandhigay waxay taabanayaan waana wax shaqadeedii dhammaantiin halkaas u sugan ah way horta sanadka joogaa oo ah wax badan soo kordhiyay waana soo kordhiyay sida halkan waxaan maanta ka hadlaynaa isbedelka cimilada si uu yahay horta maanta adduunyada oo dhan isbedelkaasi uu ka geeska taabtay waa isbedel caalam oo dhan ka dhacay isbedelka caalam oo dhan maanta mashaakilkiisii aynu xallili kari lahaa waa mid aadam jooga taabtay si kasta oo taabtay dhinaca kasta ka wixii naga taabtay dhinacii deegaanka sida deegaan caafimaad wixii naga taabtay dhaqaalaha dhaqaalihii maanta ku sugtay si weyn u taabtay bulshada oo dhinaca kasta ka taabtay bulshada marka eegto markeedina buuggan soo gaar roobab dhaxal ka dhacay kulaylo fara badan baa ka dhacay dadkii xataa dabab badan baa ka dhacay dadkii xataa siyaasha yurub qaban jiray qof walba doonay meel ku soo dhufsay sanadkii waa iga saacay iga cararayeen Asia Maraykan waa tan helkeedu psychology boqol dabab innaga geeska geeska marka ma qoyaan ma ka socdaan jaamacaddan ma ka socdaan waa soo cusubay malaha ka socdaan waa mid runtii aad ka wada qabtaan sidoo saameeyay isbedelka geeska halka maraysa aragteen sida loo guurayo waa dadkeen inta badan gees badan ama waa beeraley ama labadaas ku salaysan dhaqaalihiina bulshadeenu waa labada ay isla doonayaan marka aad ka isbedelka waxay naga saameysay dhinacii soo saarka way naga saameysay waxay naga saameysay dalabyo dhan bay naga saameysay waxay naga saameysay marka eegto xoolaha dhaqaalaha Kenya marka geeska oo dhan waxa la dhaqato mid baa geela dalbo baday hadaba inaga geeska iyo xoolaha labadii way nagisan bulshada saameeyo dadkii labada ka shaqeeyay daba fiirsanay marka beeralayda dalgi ay beerkeen halkii ku baa waay markii xoolihii waa neefka ka imanaya sanka Victoria ka imanaya inay xeerta wuxuu ku iman jiray dariiqa marba qonjir soo maanta halkaa ka imanaya xagga salligay aan xawaaro ku halkaa taana marka markii foos weeyay inagoo eedeeyo soddonkii sannadood ugu dambeeyay Soomaaliland soddonkii sannadood ugu dambeeyay bedelka nolosha soo هذا ما أنت إنه شو كده ركزنا هاي بعتذا كان تسبدل كل يوم حين بسمين بيوبان وحب بالوانا يوبان سيدي ولا تعالي مركان لا سولا تعالي سيدي ولا تعالي سيدي ولا تعالي نقص وحنا ولا تعالي مركان واحد كان في سوما يسبدل
dhibaatooyinka soo maro waxaynu u baahannahay marka ugu horreysa inaynu ku waajahno qaabab cilmiyeysan inaynu qaabab cilmiyeysan ku waajahno ayaynu marka ugu horreysa cilmiyeysan laguna maareyn aragtiyo mida waxaa lagu maareynaya aragtiyo isku mida isbedeli karta waxaa markaas ka bedeli hogaamin hagaagsan ma joogan haddii hogaan kaa xumaado inteenu maanta halkaa fadhiya maanta ma researchers ama ha ahaato parliamentarian ama cilmiyahan kala ha noqdeen haddii aanaynu inagu si toogan uga shaqayn oonan xil iska saarin wixii loo hagaagaya ma jiro ama wixii loo qabsoomaya ma jiro maxaynu u soo noqonayn cilmiga science research baynu soo noqonayn cilmi baaris baynu soo noqonayn
the kind of conversation that we need in our African continent and the work commend the Admas University for organizing this time here in Somaliland.
horumarkii taabanaysa wax kasta taabanaysa haddii la helo waa lagu shaqeynaya lacag markaynu ka hadlay oo aynu lacag loo baahan aynu ka hadlayno yes resources waa loo baahan laakiin resourceska waxa ka horeeya inaynu marka hore inagu ka keenno niyadda inaynu dhab aynu soo ka soo sida cimilada isbedelaysa sida inoo saamaysay ay inoo saamaysay inoona saamayn doonto inay xoog كدولة حان دولة سوماليا waxay qaadatay tallaabooyin diin ay qaadatay markii ay u cayintay wasaaradda ka soo dartay iyadoo sector ay keentay inay la mid noqoto deegaanka isbedelka cimilada taasoo ku guuleysay caqabadaha maanta ka dhashay annaga wasaarad ahaan waxaan waajibaadkayga weli ka guday wasaarad ahaan number one waajibaadkayga weli ka guday maxay tahay waxa la ansixiyo horta annagu aanu soo samayn intaan la ansixin policy-gii lagu hagi lahaa isbedelka policy-gaasi muxuu yahay waa siyaasadda isbedelka cimilada dabta oo ay ansixiyeen golaha wasiirada oo maanta lagu shaqayn karo oo wax lagu shaqayn karo taa maxay uga baahan taasina waxay ku salaysan tahay qorshaha horumarka Soomaaliya shanta sano soo waxay kale ku salaysan tahay qorshaha Soomaaliya ka leedahay ama development vision 2020 labada ku salaysan intuba waxay ku siinaysaa fursad halkaa ku gaadho muddada aad ku gaadho fursad siinaysa wax research lagu soo saaro haddaba degdegay waxaanu rabnaa inaynu degdegno oo aynu degdegno waxaynu degdegay waxa weeye xawliga ay ku socoto xawliga ay ku socoto isbedelka yaanu ka siinaa cilmi baaris iyo ka doon jaamacadaha ka doon jaamacadaha maanta ku jooga jaamacada Itoobiya ama mid ku taalaha ama mid Somaliland gudaheeda ku taala researchka waxa laga doonayaa jaamacadaha number 1ka waayo anagu ma shaqayn karo haddii aanan xoog hagaagsan oo soo saarteen oo lagu kalsoon yahay aanan helin ma shaqayn karayno anagu labada shay aynu had iyo jeer aynu saaro xooga waxa weeyaan markaynu waa la qabsi ama ficil oo ah mitigation waa ficil oo waxa ku mitigation iyo adaptation kii waa kaysan ugu adkaysanayaan labadaasi in jaaraan laakiin maxaa soo raacaya labadaasi maxaa soo raacaya waxa soo raacaya waxyaabo fara badan oo imika halkaa ku jirtay khudbadii jaamacadda ku jirtay oo ahay xaas oo magaalooyinka fidaaya iyaga ku dhow cimilada isbedeshay maxay ku keentay magaalooyinka magaalada ama afida ama maxay ku keentay waxay ku keentay marka ugu hoggaansan magaalooyinka gedimaankiiba waayo magaalooyin waaweyn haddaad eegto mid walba waxay maanta shirato weyn oo isbedelkaa ku yimid cimilada dad ahaan weli weyn ama miisaan uma hayno inagoo doonayna inuu xagga kasoo qaado xagga kale kasoo qaado miisaan weli uma hayno xushii halkeedii bay maraysa weliba ay sii qaadeen kusii qaadeen waxa weeyaan biyihii waynu arkaynaa biyaha loo baahan magaaladooda waa hooyadaha biyaha maanta kasoonaadaan laga soo saaray markaad garan biyaha loo baahan biyaha la xiro india qabadka loo sameeyo biyahaas ka faa'iidaysan loo baahan waxyaabaha kale ee aftarka waa macdanta lagu soo dirtay haddana ma habaysna habkii loo soo saaray dadkii sidii loo sameyn lahaa research hagaagsan wasaaradda looga shaqeeyo ayaga ku dhow meelaha annagana la taabanaya una saameynaya macdantaan qashinka badan ay soo baxay magaalada ka soo baxa madareeraha amahaadka waxaa doonaya in baarista la sameeyo dhulkan maskaxdana boobaya socdaa meel kastaba dhulkiinka adduunku meel walaal kastaba dhulka waa la boobaya uma hadin waxaa ku soo gabagabeeyay qolada maanta cilmibaarayaasha halkay jooga horta waa inaynu eegnaa qaababka ugu wanaagsan ee aad soo saaraysa marka directorka siduu sameeyey maanta oo kale ummada wadanka siduu sameeyey wadooyinka bulshada haddana waajibaadkii guudahaan xagga iyaga waanu sii rabaa laakiin cilmiyahanka maanta halka isugu waxaan kusoo gabagabeeyey inaanu sahlan waayo Afghanistan we are literally in Afghanistan well suffer waa inaynu today. See, I need a written teaching. We have to read.
Thank you very much, Honorable Shukri Bandir, Ministry of Environment and Climate Change. Ladies and gentlemen, according to our schedule, we'll be moving to the presentation session of research papers. Before our health break, within 1 hour time, there will be two papers to be presented, followed by the discussion and things like that. To facilitate this presentation here on the stage, I am going to invite our first moderator, Dr. Gabriel, who is the Quality Vice President of Admas University. Maybe Admas is the only university Quality is Vice President, and he is the Vice President. I would like to invite Dr. Zelalem Taffere to the stage. Dr. Zelalem is a PhD holder in educational research and evaluation from Addis Ababa University. His master's was from Twente University. I'm not sure whether I'm pronouncing the name of the university properly. Twente University from the Netherlands in educational science and technology, and his first degree from Addis Ababa University in business education. Here, when you see these cards, don't go to the soccer or football field. I have additional color. You may think of a traffic light, or the basic colors of a flag of a given country, but it's not how we use it here. We use it for three things. You see, time management is an important factor. When presenters are left with 5 minutes, the moderator will be showing this green card, and when they are within the 3 minutes, this yellow card will be used. And the last remark will be at 1 minute. This is how we use. The floor is yours, Dr. Zelalem. Thank you very much.
Assalamu alaikum. Good morning again. On behalf of Admas University and my colleagues in Ethiopia, I would like to thank my sincere gratitude for being here with you. I am entitled to lead 2 presentations. One is, of course, both of them are on climate change. The first presentation is from 2 presenters who have done it some days back. And the topic of the presentation is climate change and its impact on fisheries development in Somaliland. And this is done by Mr. James Miller and Mr. Ismail Haib. They are from USAID. I am informed that James Miller is not going to be here with us. To briefly introduce him, he is experienced in fishery, basically, and he has been doing this business for more than 38 years. He was engaged in different African countries, such as Togo, Cote d'Ivoire, Central Africa Republic, and Malawi. And he is also interested in doing potential for coastal fishery development and regenerative aquaculture to support coastal communities. This being so, I am going to present our presenter here today. His name is Mr. Ismail Haib. Mr. Ismail has done his second degree in development studies, and his first degree is in business management. He is bilingual with over 18 years of experience in development and organizational work, as well as business environment. He has vast experience in administration and finance, research, project management, monitoring and evaluation, fishery, value chain development, and business communication. My presenter, Mr. Ismail, has worked in several international and local organizations and business companies. To mention a few, he has been working in Smart Vision, Red Triangle, which is Research Triangle, International Development Alternatives and Incorporation, the World Bank, and Social Impact Incorporation has been his area of that he has worked in these international and local organizations. That Mr. Ismail is besides me. I am going to leave the floor to him to present his invaluable remarks on the topic I have mentioned earlier, climate change and its impact on fishery development in Somaliland. Mr. Ismail, you're given 20 minutes, and those cards will work for you too. The floor is yours. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I don't know how I can see the slides. Or I can move around. Okay. Okay. Honorable guests. Yeah. Okay. I have 20 minutes, so I will not go into details and I will not greet everyone. I will just continue with my topic. In case of note. So, yeah, it's nice. So, the impact of climate change of fisheries development in Somaliland. So, this is climate change. Climate change is something new to the. It's not new, but the heat is now coming closer to us. So we feel that we need to make change to preserve biodiversity.
In a multidisciplinary international conference style, yet we choose to focus a timely and globally present issue, which is the climate change analysis. In a multidisciplinary international conference style, yet
okay, that's down on this one. Okay, thank you. Excuse me. So, our problem statement is the impact of climate change on fisheries. Okay, I will start with here. Somaliland has 850 kilometers of coastline. I'm sorry, the population of that area is less than we think should be, because there is a resource called fish. And fish is scarce product for everywhere in the world. They said that in 20 years' time now, from now, there will be 27 million people who will need fish. 40% of the wild fish is being produced by farms. So the potential catch of the country, since I have been in the sector for the last 13 years, continuously. Many studies I have been present, and many trainings, many exposures, been accompanied with many senior consultants for fisheries. They evaluated that our catch could be 40 metric ton a year. Metric ton is 1,000 kilogram of fish. So that's something like between 80 million to 150 million. That's a lot of money annually. So Somaliland should act to get that money by doing certain activities. But now only 5 metric ton, worth 9.5 million annually, is being caught in Somaliland, mainly fish. Somaliland, as you can see, the land of Somaliland is here, 6 regions. But this blue, I think many of you are not familiar with. Exclusive economic zone. It's another area that we can claim. We should claim it. It's it's sea owned by the country as well. So it's 70,000 kilometers square. That's general introduction. I will go depth into my topic. Oh, sorry, I go back. This graph just shows the calendar of fisheries activities. So what I want to show you is the best months for fishing is those months, February, January, March, April, onwards. In these months, it's hot months, and there is another factor. The population in the coastal area decreases rapidly in that month, as well as the fisher folks or fishermen. Sorry. This is the main diagram of why the climate affects the fisheries. Number one, it increases the temperature of the sea, the well, then the sea, just the same the well. It's the same well. Temperature increases. What happens when the temperature increases? Each species of fish has its own territory. For example, gulbar shark or dog shark, what we call in the Tohoshle in Somalia, it goes depth in the sea, 60 feet depth in the sea, and each species of fish has its own route based on temperature. So if the temperature rises, if the temperature goes up, so there is change for the fish movement, area of movement. Number two is shift. Then the fish shifts from area to area. So if the fish shifts, there is a problem to catch it. It goes deep in the sea. So our low-skilled fishermen cannot catch the fish. It also, climate And temperature also affect the coral reefs. The area, let us see in simple language, the houses or the area that the fish or other living things in the sea live. Also, wind and high tides is a part of the, there's the more wind, the more the sea will be rough. And so fish also goes deep in the sea to get some sort of comfortable. And also the tides. So what's the relationship between the tides and getting fish? It is because our fisher folks they are mainly artisanal. They have small boats, 8.5 meter. I think it's 3 meter here, and this wide, 8.5 fall for, something like that. 85 or 90% of the boats used in, for example, the coastal area are all small, so they cannot resist the high tide. So what's the relationship between the road and sea? That's another question. So water is very important for the marine environment. It grows some things inside the sea. Fish also drinks the water, not by mouth, but it absorbs from the skin. Rises of sea levels. A certain area, inhabitants in the coastal area, maybe the coming 20 years, the sea will be overtaken. So that's another challenge. So, in conclusion, climate affects the production of fisheries. Maybe I'm not good at technology. Okay, this is a climate change diagram. It's a diagram showing the temperature, low and high. For example, this is the catch, that red, the catch per month. And then that green line is the temperature. You can see August, June, July, May, the temperature goes up. And then this is the wind, mile per hour, and that's that line. So it just shows that the catch speed is always affected by the either wind or temperature, both affects. Because during June, July, August, fish becomes very scarce in the country because it's not the fish is there, but it goes deep in the sea because the surface of the sea becomes hot and the sea becomes rough, as I said. So it goes deep or sometimes go in this reef. So it needs a special technique of catching, and we don't have that. Just to show. So I'm running out of time, so I have to go. This sector has been neglected by its people, Somaliland, economically. And based on our experience, we believe Yemen gets more than we receive. And you have to know that is our country, but we don't have the ability to protect. This is demand and supply of fish. By the way, let me remind you that the effect of climate change, yes, that's the topic, But we want to show you the potentiality of our resources and how we can improve it as well. So the country now supplies 4,745 metric ton, but the demand is higher than that. I think it's something like 20 to 25% we need to add on, so we can satisfy only the domestic market. Forget about the export. In some, I remember some time back, for example, in Addis Ababa, it needs 300 tons per month. So that's a lot. But let us first focus on the local demand. Growth in the sector depends on, you can see here, modern gear. Gear is the hook, the nets, all that's called gear, fishing gear. So the private companies should introduce new gear that you can fish during the hot and rough climate. Application of HACCP, health analysis critical control point, is a measurement of something related with the quality control. And then training, capacitating local fishermen, investing in strong fishing vessels. Vessels is a boat or ship or hatch, whatever you call. In general, it's called vessel, sea vessel. The government should enforce laws, regulations, policies, and act as competent authority. I'm happy that Ministry of Environment recently established a section for marine protected, something like that. Am I right? Yeah. Marine environment? Yeah. Protection unit. If rubbish can spoil the marine habitats. Export facilitation and market linkage. That's the role of government. Improving tax systems, strong institutional memory. That's the one Minister Shukri mentioned. Institutional memory. There will be consultants, NGOs, other scholars, universities, but the government should accumulate that knowledge and make use of it. That's what I mean. Universities, you have role. University of Ark is here, Admas is our host. They are here. Regular research about production sector, short courses on fisheries. I don't know which university runs fisheries course. And even degree and master's levels. Fishing gear. As the fishing gear. For example, in Somaliland, they mainly use net. And net is not effective way of catching fish. It is, you can accumulate huge fish, but the fish rotten is inside the sea if you left the net for a long time. Because this area the net is, that certain fish that accumulates, it is territory. It's warming up, and it should be spoiled before you pick it up. We need practical training, hands-on, and this is our conclusion. Training is needed, studies are needed. That's the final words. Berbera Maritime Fisheries Academy should provide hands-on short courses on fish catch, handling, preservation, and processing. Very brief.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ismail. We have a wonderful presentation. My next speaker. Yeah, I have to finish this, right? Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. Our second presenter is Mr. Mukhtar. He is going to present on investing the influence of recent climate change on seawater temperature. Let me briefly introduce Mr. Muhammad. Excuse me, let me present the profiles of Mr. Mukhtar Kaidid. Mr. Mukhtar is currently Agriculture Development Manager in Faro Foundation. His MSc is in Environmental Management from University of Spring in the United Kingdom. His base is in Agricultural Engineering from University in Costa Rica. He is passionate about climate change, resilience, decarbonization, food security, and renewable energies. He has experiences with biogas systems. And he is today with us to present investigating the influence of recent climate change on seawater temperature. I hope he has invaluable remarks on his presentation, and he is going to shine in front of you today. Mr. Mukhtar, I'm hereby inviting you to lead your presentation. Thank you so much.
yeah, definitely. Yeah. marka hore asalaamu calaykum waraxmatullaahi wabarakaatuh. Kule waxa ay fudud in English ku jeediyo. So hello everyone, my name is Mukhtar. Yeah. Up. Okay. Yeah, so this is part of my research in my master's degree in the United Kingdom. So today I will be briefly presenting the impact of recent climate change on seawater temperature. So I have 20 minutes, so I will try to be very concise. So this is my agenda. Briefly, I will give you a background, the ocean importance in the climate system. I will talk about climate change impacts on the ocean and marine life. I will talk about changes in sea surface temperature, SST. I will also talk about changes in sea surface salinity. Also, I will talk about my objectives of my thesis or my dissertation. So I can just skip. So many of you might just know the ocean provides just food for us, but actually it's more than that. The ocean is home to abundance of life. It produces oxygen. It produces between 50 to 80%. Actually, that is more than the combined trees on Earth. Like the ocean produces more oxygen than trees on the planet. Also, it supports greatest biodiversity, and also is the biggest solar energy collector. It absorbs, it stores, it transports the heat from the sun. Also, the ocean is the largest carbon reservoir in the climate system by absorbing almost 30% of all the carbon dioxide and produced by the human. Also, the ocean acts as a critical buffer against climate change by naturally keeping the atmosphere and the ocean surface at an equilibrium state with respect to carbon dioxide and heat. So here I will briefly talk about the climate change impacts. We know since from the Industrial Revolution, the greenhouse gas has been increasing exponentially. As you can see this graph right here, you can see the global monthly mean of carbon dioxide since from 1980 is exponentially increasing. So today, the ocean has captured over like 1/3 of all the carbon dioxide produced by human, and also it absorbed by 90% of the heat generated by the rising greenhouse gas emissions. So why is that? Like this increasing temperature in the ocean has causing like unprecedented challenges, including ocean acidification, ocean warming, and losing oxygen. So as my colleague mentioned before, like this sea surface temperature changes has consequences with all the species that are living in the ocean. So one of the things that I concentrated during my research was understand the sea surface temperature, how that sea surface temperature has been increasing for the last 30 years. I choose for the last 30 years because that was the only data set that I had like the chance to analyze. As you might know, maybe the sea surface temperature changes with the latitude. The lower latitude is warmer than higher latitude. Surface sea temperature is a valuable indicator to understand the interaction between the ocean and the atmosphere. So over the years, the ocean surface temperature has been increasing due to climate change. That's very clear. And about 60%, all of that heat is captured from 0 to 700 meters, just like the surface of the ocean. And on average, the depth of the ocean is almost like 4 kilometers. So you can see all the heat, all the carbon dioxide that has been produced, each has captured between 0 to 700 meters. So what are the key consequences of the increase in sea surface temperature include the altering migration and breeding pattern of habitat, the decline of fish production in the long term, an increase of atmospheric water vapor. And that is the one that is causing the droughts, the tropical cyclones, the heat waves, all of that. So also sea surface salinity is another essential physical, chemical parameter which plays fundamental role in global ocean circulation and is widely used to predict key changes of the Earth climate system. The warming climate is changing the saltiness of the world. For the last 50 years, it has been said the ocean salinity has increased by 4%. So there are some other parameters that plays important role of sea surface salinity changes, like temperature, solar radiation, cloud cover, and ocean circulation influence the sea surface salinity. So due to recent climate change, the global average near surface density has decreased as the ocean temperature and salinity have changed. So the changes in sea surface salinity and the temperature also has consequences on sea water density. So that's one of the key consequences of the increase in sea level rise. So these are the main objectives of my research that I focused. So first of all, I investigated the seasonal trends of near surface water temperature in the Kintar Peninsula. I will show you the map where I got the data later on. Also, my second objective was investigate the seasonal changes in meteorological drivers such as precipitation, atmospheric temperature, 2 meters above the surface of the Earth in the Kintar Peninsula. So also, other key objective was to determine the correlation between near surface seawater temperature and the other meteorological data set that I have received. So, and also I analyzed the salinity trend and density changes for the last 3 decades. So finally, my investigation was focused on if the sea surface temperature has changed, salinity has changed, what kind of consequences will have the species in the ocean. So just to summarize, the data set, as I said, was comprised from 1992 to 2021. So that was a large data set, and it was like the daily average of sea surface salinity and sea surface temperature. So the data I obtained from the university was the average sea surface temperature for the last 30 years, and also sea surface salinity for the last 30 years. And if you have those two parameters, you can calculate sea surface density using by this formula. I think it's not that clear, but yeah. And also, I received satellite-based data sets such as atmospheric temperature, precipitation, relative humidity, and North Atlantic Oscillation Index. So this is in summary the data set that I summarized and analyzed. So maybe some of you will know where the Cantar Peninsula is located. So this is a map of the United Kingdom. You can see Scotland, Glasgow, Edinburgh. So this is the Cantar Peninsula. It's 150 kilometers from Glasgow. So in situ data set comprised the near surface seawater temperature and salinity was collected from the intake of this laboratory that was owned by the university. So the data was collected on every day between 9 to 10 a.m. in the morning. And it was collected and measured by thermometer that was calibrated. Also for salinity measurement, it was measured by an oil-check hydrometer, measured parts per thousand or PPT. And for density calculation, the temperature and salinity data set from 1993 to 2021 were used. So for data analysis, as I said, the data set was huge. So I tried to filter using Excel and SPSS. So different parameter tests were used, such as ANOVA, t-test, Pearson's correlation, and regression analysis. So one of the key assumptions of using one-way ANOVA is to confirm the normal distribution of the data set. So that's why I used the SPSS software. So just to come for results and discussions, this is, I'm not sure why the letters went up when I sent the presentation. So you can see for the first graph, there is a significant difference between the first decade, 1992 to 2021, and the second decade and the last decade. The temperature of sea surface temperature has increased. Also, one of the interesting findings that I found during my research was that from 2002 to 2011, always showed the highest sea surface temperature. So this is really interesting. So one of the other things that I have done is to compare the sea surface temperature and atmospheric temperature. So you can see as the atmospheric temperature has increased, also the sea surface temperature has increased with the same rate. Also that graph is also very interesting to understand the correlation of the annual sea surface temperature and atmospheric temperature. It was like strongly correlated. So this is the sea surface salinity and sea surface and seawater density, sorry. You can see both show like declining rate for the last 3 decades. So for the discussion is for the last 3 decades, the average sea surface water temperature has increased in the North Atlantic. So that's the, where I did the investigation. It belongs to North Atlantic Ocean. So between 2000 and 2009, I got the warmest decade on record, while 2010 showed coolest. So for the last 3 decades, the sea surface salinity declined as a result of the climate change. So temperatures also plays an important role. The growth and production of aquatic species, including fish and shellfish, which are mostly sensitive to temperature changes due to climate change. So in the UK, the rising temperature has, as a result of climate change, has influenced the abundance and distribution of fish and shellfish, such as incidence of aquatic diseases, reduction growth production, and some chronic stress of fish. So in conclusion, seawater surface temperature and sea surface salinity and seawater density are some of the most important variables to understand well the impact of climate change on seawater. So anywhere, like, so it has been identified both seasonal and decadal variation of these indicators. So globally, the sea surface temperature is expected to increase the 21st century. So meteorological parameters which have a direct influence, the oceanic processes include air temperature, wind, relative humidity, and cloud cover. So during the last 3 decades, atmospheric temperature has been increasing at a higher rate than any other time in the past, with some year variations. So future work, as I said, the data set in situ that I obtained was just sea surface temperature and sea surface salinity. But if someone wants to be like more accurate, I recommend to do some real-time meteorological weather variations inside. So I'm recommending that. These are some of the references that I used. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mukhtar. You are in time.
1 second. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to recognize the presence of the Director of Research and Science from Ministry of Education and Science, Ms. Ubah Ahmed Abdullahi. She's among us. Thank you. Thank you. Back to you, please.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Ismail and Mr. Mukhtar for the invaluable contributions you're making. Having said this, let me briefly give you the highlights with what was mentioned by our presenters. First, the topic was on climate change and its impact on fisheries development in Somaliland. He has tried to mention how it is happening in our territory here, specifically to Somaliland, and the seasonal change and its impact was stressed. The climate on the number of fish and the demand, of course, for fish was also addressed. The temperature and its impact for this fish were also discussed. He also tried to remind us how far this fishery is also essential to Somaliland, of course to the globe when they are going to be exported. Again, this problem is critical as the contemporary climate change is increasing, specifically with temperature. And in general, he showed us the impact on the temperature and the fishery as a source of income to the nation. Again, this has significant resource to the nation here, Somaliland. Indirectly, he showed us the potential resources from fishery, and the demand and the supply was compared. Specifically, the demand is high, whereas the supply of this fishery fish and from fishery is limited, not only to the export market, it's also very limited to the domestic market. He suggested, or he finally made a remark that expectations are there from the government, particularly in terms of policy making, the universities to do in terms of programs, and of course the government by and large to deal with fishing gear. Lastly, he recommended short courses and training. And these were remarks from Mr. Ismail. Mr. Mukhtar, on the title of Investigating the Influence of Recent Climate Change on Seawater Temperature, was also presented a few minutes earlier. He critically noted the impact of ocean with regard to, of course, the importance of motion in terms of food, oxygen, of course, also observing carbon dioxide and heat and its contributions to the well-being or the humankind. Having said this, this ocean is challenged for in several aspects. Some of these were mentioned in his presentation. Particularly, he focused on the consequences, as mentioned earlier, with the fishers and fishing in the globe, specifically to the United Kingdom. And the sea surface temperature was observed. He used a data set for 30 years and explained with latitude as it increases and decreases. He also mentioned the salinity of the ocean is increasing through time, and the temperature also has an impact, although the water density is decreasing. The seasonal change on temperature has an atmospheric impact on the density and salinity. Then impliedly the fishers are also in a disadvantaged position. Having saying this, he also mentioned where he has collected his data. The data was collected 9 to 10 a.m. In the morning. He also has seen this data in a laboratory. He used inferential statistics to run the data he has collected on the earlier mentioned. Now, he also, of course, discussed the seawater is in a challenge environment, or he tried to show, he showed us clearly the impact of the climate on the seawater, of course, in order to get the main views. Lastly, he also showed us that this temperature is increasing and is also expected to increase. With this high level increasing temperature, and what's going to happen to the globe is his concern. Of course, lastly, noting that it's going to increase, he suggested this in the meteorology to look into the situation and also focus in that regard, and has put his wonderful conclusion and recommendations with the feeling that this has a negative impact in our world. This being so, the presentation in brief, I would like you to again to reflect us or also discuss some of the issues they have mentioned. Here are willing to reflect questions. We are also given 20 minutes, and I took 3 to 4 minutes out of them. So I would like you to do 3 things to me. First, mention who you are and where you are from. Second, limit your questions to 1 or 2 and present it in 3 minutes. I will forward one question to both of you. What's going to be the takeaway that here we have policymakers, scholars, and younger generation here around in the round to take and then do it so that we can also safeguard our climate. This is one question from me. Now I'm giving you a chance to raise your hand and then take a session to present. Yes. 1, 2, 3, 4.
I want to pass to the minister who was taking some comments on both papers, and then I will follow.
horta marka ugu horeysa run ahaantii waxaan runtii congratulate gareynayaa ama mahad celinayaa labada khabiir ee maanta runtii halkan soo fadhiistay ka kala hadlayay labaduba ka hadlayeen in different ways markaad u eegto marine environment-ka waxaan u mahad celinayaa oo kale moderator-ka maanta la fadhiya kawdal ahaan horta maanta waxay labada inanba waxayna tuseen runtii wax aad iyo aad u qiimo badan labada presentation ba waxay ku fadhiyeen labaduba scientific bay ku fadhiyeen haddaba haddaan u eego tii hore waxay ka hadlaysay Somaliland bay ka hadlaysay iyo halka aynu marayno maanta ayay ka hadlaysay 5,000 oo metric ton maaha wadan weyn oo leh xeebta intaa leeg inaynu nidhaahno 5,000 baynu soo saaraa sanadkii annual inaga oo runtii inaguna cuni kara dhoofina kara runtii taas waxay u baahan tahay dib u eegis weyn ayay inooga baahan tahay tan labaadna cilmiga ay ku fadhiday waxa weeyaan waxa la inoo sharaxay sida uu isu bedelay haddii maaragtay badaha sida isu bedelaan ama caalamka marine environment-ku siduu isu bedelay waqtigii hore iyo imika iyo sida aynu doonayna inaga qudhoon inaynu uga faa'iideysano haddaba waxa xusud mudan presentationskani maaha presentations la dhayalsado waa presentations lagu shaqayn karo oo recommendationska halkaa ka soo baxay ee presentationadu keeneen inaynu ku shaqayno scientifically ugu shaqayno haddaynu nahay dawladda Soomaaliland anagu ka minister of environment waxaanu leenahay new department oo cusub oo runtii si weyn aanu imika uga wada shaqaynaa aniga iyo agaasimaha guudba sidii aanu hore ugu marin lahayn marine environment-ka maanta Soomaaliland baa sababtoo ah inaynu kala duuno dhaqaalaheena meelaha wax naga soo galayaan ayay number 1 ay tahay marka horta taa waan u mahad celinayaa talabaadna labada kelmadood waxaan oranayaa really I would like to thank the two gentlemen for their presentations which were very very important to the point. Marine environment for Somaliland is very very new topic. It's not a new topic but it's not an active topic. For our ministry we have a new department which is currently working for the last year and a half. For the two presentations, both of the presentations were very educational. We really have to really think about how we can benefit from these two presentations in terms of one, practicality. We have literally to make it practical, what that has been said today in here. Secondly, working together with the researchers is not, it is something that we are literally looking forward in terms of marine environment, and plus the terrestrial environment, but marine environment is an area where Somaliland people need to go forward, specifically our students. It's not only the school that we have in Berbera or the college that we have in Berbera that we have really to think about it. We have to educate our students in Hargeisa, in Bur'o. Universities should add curriculum, they should add in their curriculum that the marine environment is really very, very important for our students to learn. And I myself is very interested to learn more about the environment, specifically the marine environment, because I'm a fish eater, but I don't know how to really swim, and I don't know how to catch fish, both. So for me too, it will be a great experience. Thank you.
was the next. I give opportunity to the others, and then if there is a time, I will come back.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Admas, for organizing such a wonderful conference. This is Dr. Fakadu from Jijjiga University, Ethiopia. Again, thank you, the presenters, both Ismail and Mukhtar, for your smart and nice presentation with a great output. I have one question for Ismail, and as you mentioned on your study output, and you said that this fishing and fishery industry is almost neglected by the Somaliland economy, and the foreigners and other countries are benefited out of it. And so what specific recommendation do you have to Somaliland government, and again to the NGOs and other stakeholders and policymakers of the country to make or encourage the locals or the Somalilanders to involve in this fishery industry and benefit out of it? And what kind of recommendation do you have with the question that I have? Thank you so much.
Yeah, the third president.
Assalamu alaikum. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Bashir. Actually, I'm from Admas first batch, and actually I'm proud to be here today. And back in 16 years, we used to struggle for getting 10 computers for practice back in 2006, and now we are doing this kind of research. I'm like literally crying, or like I have my eyes crying. I'm proud to be Admas product. I have like one or two questions for the presenters. Like, should we be worried more about technology and its impact on climate change? Like, what is the direct impact of technology on the climate change? And the second question, Ismail said we should be eating more fish. And earlier you said there's no adequate supply of fish. How can I eat more fish when there is no adequate supply of fish in the market? Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much. The first one at the back. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank to the presenters and the researchers as well for giving us these wonderful presentations. My name is Ali Mahmoud. I'm a university lecturer as well as representing SOS Children's Villages. I just have only two questions to Mr. Ismail. Question number one is there a specific marine species or areas that climate change has affected in Somaliland while you were doing your research that you have discovered? My second question is, since we know that fishing techniques or skills is a bit rare to our country, is there any recommendations or any areas that you would like to recommend which can at least help us, our fishermen, to at least increase their skills when it comes to fishing, since we are a very young country which does not have a very sophisticated gears that we can do our fishing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let me also add two from, maybe if there is one who can ask from that direction. Anyone from first row, please?
My name is Abshakur Musa. I am senior student in Admas. First, I thank you for the researchers, for their good researchers. I have one question for Ismail. When Ismail in Somaliland, when the climate change or become hot, can you mention as percentage how our fish can reduce when the temperature become hot? Thank you.
Okay, one from this row. What's this? Yeah. Yeah. Sister.
Hi, my question is to Mr. Ismail. I would like to ask him two questions.
Can you mention your name, please,
Yeah.
and where are you from?
My name is Ifrah Ismail. I am MBA student in Admas University. My first question is, as Mr. Ismail mentioned, the climate change affects the fishes. There was a lot of points. So, how rising of sea level affects the fishes? My second question is, why mostly educated youth do not focus about fishing or about fishing? Yeah.
Thank you so much. Last is for. Yeah. Can you repeat the next question, please? The last question. Give it to her. He is not getting.
Okay. So you have two questions, and you finish with that.
Yeah, I finished.
You finished.
Yeah.
She's finished.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
It's okay. And the last is for Dr. Jama. You want to ask, right? Okay.
mahadsanid. It was more than a question, a comment on Mukhtar's presentation, because of he showed us how data is important. And in my keynote, what I was saying, if we don't have data, if we don't have information, then as researchers, we cannot come up anything. And he had huge amount of data collected for a long time, and still in situ, and he get information also from the satellite. Now, the problem, and this is a message for the audience, for the researchers, if we don't collect data, what will happen is that at the end of the day, we will use those data collected in Europe, collected in the UK, collected in a place that is too different from ours. And then we will take important decisions on us from a data that has nothing to do with us, that probably has nothing to do with our sea, that has nothing to do with our environment, that has nothing to do with even the kind of fish that we have. And then we will assume that our fish will have a problem with the climate change. Probably it will be in the opposite, since we don't have data. So it's really, one more time, become important that we collect data. And these collected data should be collected by research institutes, not necessarily by the government, but the research institutions should collect these data. So I want to just super emphasize how important is the data. And if we don't get that data in a long time, he might have 10 years constantly collected data in order to take a decision. Imagine we don't have anything, any information, what's happening today in Berbera, so how we can take a decision on Africa. So I just want to super emphasize that, and I would love to hear his experience and how, as institutions, research institutions, universities, and government, what we can do now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now it's time for their reflections. The two presenters will have a session to reflect. Try to limit your reflections in 3 minutes. I have asked what's going to be the takeaway, and Dr. Jama has also repeated the same. So this is one. I just want you again to reflect when your reflections in terms of period, short, medium, and long-term plans. Thank you so much. I will give the floor to Mr. Ismail first, and Mr. Mukhtar will follow. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks for asking questions. I like it. Because something huge in my heart about the fish and how we are chasing the livestock. We have two resources, fish and livestock. So for the questions, what recommendation you have for the neglected sector? I think that question has been asked a friend of one of the audiences. I have not written his name, sorry. The government, NGOs, private sector, all have a stake. But two will exist and one is temporary. For NGOs, whatever one NGO does, it's a temporary. It's for us to benefit from the knowledge they transfer and the good projects they bring. That's one. But for the rest of the two, the government and private sector should both have a role to play. So I would recommend people of Somaliland to consume fish, catch fish, but my recommendation is hands-on skill training. Our fisher folks are lacking the proper skill to catch the fish for specific seasons. When the fish is not visible or it's not, for example, there are certain technologies that you can use to find a fish, whether fish is around or not. Fish finder, something like that's called. We don't have that. 99.9% of us do not have our fisher folks. That's one. Most of the fisher folks in the coastal area, for my experience, they get into that sector by experience, not learning, not knowing specifically what each species, what of the benefit of each species, and all that. So I recommend the private sector first for big companies to use research before they invest. You can see big facilities that's been invested for several millions, but I'm sure most of them, they don't even pay $10,000 for the feasibility study. That's one. For big companies, they should study before they invest. For other fishing companies, they should bring high technology gear that can facilitate to catch a lot of fish, that can save energy. I would recommend for fishermen to catch the fish by hook. That's more energetic. You are catching one by one, but that's more fresh and more delicious than the one who caught by the net. We have limited fishing gear brought in the country. I would recommend businesses to get into that business and brought more fishing gear. Skill of the fishermen. Women can also take a role for that sector by mending the nets or making other basic fishing gear. That's the answer. There's a lot of things to be done to progress, to develop the neglected sector. Another friend asked me, how can I eat fish when there is no supply? So maybe if I ask you, yesterday you eat meat, why you eat meat? Why don't you eat fish? The demand is higher than supply, no doubt. But the people should consume fish, so the price goes up. So it encourages the fish folks to get into the sea and catch more. That's one of the reasons meat is much expensive than fish. For specific main species, which has been endangered for the climate change, the shellfish, yes, they are more endangered. For the recommendation for skills, I would recommend hands-on training for youth. How to catch, how to get the fish, how to preserve, how to clean, how to process, all the value chain. For the value chain, we say from hook to fork, or from hook to hand. That value chain should be improved. So it starts from the catching the fish. So those who are catching the fish should know how. If I should know how to survive in the sea, should have the protective measures and all that stuff. For the temperature versus fish reduction, my point was not that when the I mean, I don't know that question. This question says temperature versus fish reduction. Yes, there's a linkage between temperature and fish availability, because I said the fish goes down in the sea. The fish is available, but the know-how, how to catch, this is the problem. We need specific gear that we can catch the fish. For example, if you send one boat for Somali boat and one for Yemenis, they will catch the fish no matter what the season is, because they have the skill. So we need the skill to catch the fish. But during the hot season, for example, in the coastal areas, the monsoon wind blows from June to mid-August. So in that time, the fish goes down the sea, deep. And we need a specific gear and a specific skill that we can catch. The fish is available, but the problem is the technique. If Rah said sea level versus availability of fish, what's the relationship? If I am not wrong, I understand that question like that. So there's no relationship. But the only relationship is, I mean, when the sea level rises, it does not affect the fish. It affects the coastal community, you know, who will go further out in the upper land. So it's difficult for them to have accessibility. Okay. Okay, Dr. Chama, we have noted your suggestions. There is a need of catch record in our coastal areas, because in some ways it's good that Somaliland people are not seafaring people, because otherwise other measures should be taken. For example, catch record. How do we know that this specific species of fish are endangered or overfishing? That's one of the techniques we do. Because each certain species of fish has certain centimeters or meters.
Yeah, can you present in 1 minute, please?
When it lands, you can measure randomly, so you know whenever the size is small, whenever that species is endangered. I think I answered most of the questions.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ismail. And I'm going to again give a few minutes to Mr. Mukhtar for the questions addressed to him. Thank you.
I think all the questions were towards Ismail. It looks like people are interested at the fish production in Somalia, but I would like to focus a bit. I just want to briefly emphasize the wonderful comment that Mr. Chama has made. The importance of the data set, that is really important. And the data set I have used was collected for 30 years, like every day. So you wonder what our universities, research institutions are doing. So I think that's really important, how many universities we have in Somaliland. What kind of data set do they have? So also, I just want to really emphasize and encourage universities and Admas University, who is here today, to think how they can train students, how they can collect a data set that can be very useful in the country. The research I did was in the UK. It was part of my master's degree. It's fine, but in Somaliland, the data can be completely different, as Mr. Chama said. So I would like to take this opportunity to encourage our universities, research institutions to think how we can get data set in every sector, not just marine life. But the parameters that I have talked about, sea surface temperature, sea surface salinity, the density, is just to introduce what kind of parameters that can be used. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Now it's time to accompany my presenters. I thank you so much on the behalf of the colleagues here. Please, audience, would you join me to clamp my presenters? Thank you so much. Now the floor is to Mr. Tesfaye. Thank you.
Sorry for the time. The discussion will continue during the health break and lunch time. So questions are always there, answers are always there. So here, after this, we are going to have the health break. It will also take us 20 minutes. You may feel that everything is 20 minutes today. So the 20 minutes break is open. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give priority to the dignitaries first, and we will follow them. Please. Ladies and gentlemen, it is about time to resume our presentations. Please, let's go back to our seats. Ladies and gentlemen, this is my second call to take your seats. We are about to resume the presentations. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is my last call. Please, let's go back to our seats and we will resume our session. Please go back and take your seats. Welcome back. We are officially resuming or starting our session after the health break. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, according to our schedule, the next session will be another keynote address from the concerned body, His Excellency Mr. Mohammed Abdullahi Douale, the Director General of the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change, will give us a very brief keynote address. Thank you very much.
Good morning, all of you. Honorable Minister, I'm afraid my minister has left. Honorable President of Admas University, the Director General of Hargeisa Cultural Center, the organizers, the Director of Research and Innovations of Admas University, Ahmad Nasir, and the organizers, the delegates. I stand before you today with a profound sense of gratitude and enthusiasm as we gather here at this 15th Multidisciplinary Conference organized by Admas University. It's a privilege to welcome esteemed delegates and participants from across the region to this critical event that focuses into the impact of climate change on the Horn of Africa and the quality of higher education. First and foremost, I extend my appreciation to Admas University for taking the initiative to host this conference. By bringing together experts, researchers, policymakers, stakeholders, you have created an infallible platform for knowledge sharing, collaboration, and collective action to address the challenge posed by climate change. The Horn of Africa, with its diverse landscapes, rich cultural heritage, faces significant and complex challenges due to climate change. As we explore the impacts of climate change on our region, it's crucial to understand the interconnected nature of this challenge and their consequence on the environment, society, security, and economies. Today, we also focus on Somaliland, a nation that shares the concerns of the broader region. Climate change is not a distant concept, but a stark reality for Somaliland, where extreme weather events, water scarcity, land degradation, have severe implications on livelihood and food security in Somaliland. The government of Somaliland, through the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change, as my minister already stated, has taken tangible strides towards tackling the exacerbating adverse effects of climate change. For instance, the Cabinet recently approved the climate change policy developed by the ministry as one of its integrated approaches towards sustaining healthy and productive environment. I want to emphasize the importance of cooperation among public institutions and research centers, with particular emphasis on universities. Our universities are the treasure trove of knowledge, innovation, and expertise. They serve as the driving force for research and development. And their role in understanding and tackling the impact of climate change is very important. By promoting collaboration and knowledge exchange between public institutions and universities, we can strengthen our collective efforts to find sustainable solutions. Emphasizing interdisciplinary research is essential as climate change is a complex